Hi again, first grade. We've moved on from our treasure chest. And now we'll introduce and share Ada Twist, Scientist. So, why do you think I had those items to share with you? We can look at the cover. What do you see? Bunch of sketches, some letters, maybe some math. We can see a little girl. We can see a little boy. We can read that the title says Ada Twist, Scientist. And maybe that's exactly what she is. Maybe that's what she wants to be. Do you think her name is Ada Twist? And she's the character of this book? That's what we're going to be focusing on the next few times that I share books with you is characters. What makes a character? What does a character look like? What is a character's name? What does the character like to do that makes them who they are? So be listening for that as we share Ada Twist, Scientist by Andrea Beatty and illustrated by David Roberts. If I share with you the spine of this book, can you tell where it would be in the library? Well, it doesn't matter if you're at Westmere or Gilderland or Altamont or Pine Bush or Linwood. It would be in the picture book section of the library under the first three letters of the author's last name. And there it is. Do you know what kind of paper we call that? This is the inside of the book cover. And I love how authors and illustrators sometimes decide to make patterns. This is graph paper. That would be another clue, maybe, about the word scientist. Here we go. Ada Marie said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. The first thing that I noticed, did you notice? That it rhymes. And we can say that her name is Ada Marie. Do you think she's an old person or a young person? I don't think she's very old. And until she was 3, did she talk? No, she didn't. That's what I can tell from one page. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day chasing each sound and sight and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Do you know what that page tells me? Let me read it again. She learned how to climb and make her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through that day, chasing each sight and sound, and did not slow down till she conked at night. That tells me that Ada has a lot of energy. That's describing her character. Who do you think those people are? Maybe her family? Her parents were frazzled but tried not to freak as Ada grew bigger and still did not speak. Clearly, young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. Till she's older than 3, her parents are worried she still isn't talking. But boy, does she have a lot going on. Take a look at her hold that number 8. And look at her eyes. Doesn't look like she's mad, sad, happy. What does it look like? To me, it looks like she's looking at it, thinking. See, her eyebrow is up in the air a little bit. Kind of like maybe she's saying, That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply asked, why? Why what? Why are they telling her to stop? They're telling her to stop because what? It could be dangerous. But I think that because I see Ada on top, that maybe she's also fearless or brave. Maybe those are words that describe Ada. Why does it tick and why does it talk? Why don't we call a granddaughter? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock instead of a grandfather clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? Wow, she asks a lot of questions. How would we describe that? A big word I might use is inquisitive. She started with why, and then what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child. Ooh, that's a great word that describes Ada, who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Why, what, how, and why? Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. But why does it? How? How does it? Why won't it? Does it do? What is it for? Will it be the same? What if? Why? Will it? When? What? Can I? She asks a lot of questions to learn a lot of information. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos worked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. Traits of a great scientist. What do you think a scientist needs to do? A scientist needs to ask a lot of questions. A scientist loves to learn how things work, why things work, when things work, and what things work. I think those are great describing traits of Ada. Ada was busy the first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. Did she smell something good or bad? "Zowie!" said Ada, which got her to thinking. What is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell? And does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start where she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with the hypothesis too. Hypothesis, that might be a new word for you. A hypothesis is something she thinks. The first thing she thinks is that the stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. Maybe she had to think of something else. Then, zowie, that stink struck again just like that. Hypothesis 2, it was caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. She started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" She was going to put him in the washing machine to clean him off because she was testing all those stinks perfumes. You think? Wasn't the cat. Wasn't the stew. But she sure is making a mess in the process. Oh boy. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now by the time we count 3. Enough, said her mother. That's it, said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said, nope. What? Ada queried. Her father said, go. You've ruined our supper. You made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think. She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada once more could say nothing at all. She's terribly sad. Her parents are terribly frustrated at all the messes she's making. Do you think there's some other way that Ada could become a scientist without doing all of that? And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and Stu and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked 2. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why, and then what, how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. So she's taking notes, and she stopped making messes and started thinking. Although, where is she doing her thinking? Uh-oh. Her parents calmed down and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. That means stare. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair now was a great thinking hall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, we'll figure it out. And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and a heart that is true. They remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asked lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. Why was the inside graph paper? So instead of letting her write on the walls, they bought books, they made shelves, they gave her paper to write her ideas down. And as for that smell, what can Ada Twist do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question, and someday, who knows? They're taking notes, they're asking questions, and that's the end. Now, at the back, the author writes a little note, and it says, women have been scientists for as long as there has been science. They've asked questions and looked for answers to the secrets of the universe, of soil and stars, stalactites and seahorses, glaciers and gravity, brains and black holes, of everything. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you are. You can be a scientist by asking a lot of questions. The illustrations in this book were watercolor, pen, and ink. Oh, also it says pencil and graph paper. And this book's birthday was 2016. We're going to share some other books by the same author as we continue to talk about characters. What made Ada Twist Ada Twist. It wasn't just what she looked like. It was what she acted like, what we think was in her brain. That all describes character. All right, friends. I hope you have a super awesome, fantastic day. Bye for now.